Let's just say this. If you had Brian Kelly as a coach ousted this year on your bingo card, congratulations. You can yell bingo right now. Because, yes, another one bites the dust as coaches seem to just be tumbling off of teams right now. Welcome back to the Midweek College Football Breakdown. Dalton Miller off this week. He had his first basketball game, Manhattan Christian College. And unfortunately, they did not win. I saw
they didn't fare so well, I don't feel like.
Well, it's a slow start, maybe. That's, and he's not at risk of being ousted like Brian Kelly, I think, with game one, at least.
Definitely not. And it's just an exhibition game, so it's probably a team that he wasn't planning on beating, maybe. I know a lot of times in his exhibition games, they'll play teams that are a level above or a little bit better just to give his team something different to look at.
That's good, and that's always good to play up. You play up, and then it makes it a lot easier with the teams that you play all the time. So
you don't get better playing worse teams.
That's right. He left that part out though in the group text. So it makes me feel a little bit better too. They look good, but it didn't come out on the W side. Neither did the Oklahoma Sooners this weekend. OU versus Ole Miss, dropping an L 34-26. I want to tell you something that I read from this guy on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen this guy before. Oh, it's Oklahoma is the Twitter or the X account. BK, Brian Kelly, went 34 for 14 overall and 12-10 in the SEC. He was hired for the 2022 season. Brent Venables, 28 and 19 overall and 4-8 in the SEC. He was hired for the 2022 season. Worst record for Brent Venables. I'm not looking for him to go, but man, you see some of these other guys falling off with much, much better records. It makes you wonder if the regents aren't looking at who they could get now, don't you think?
I do. I'm sure they're looking. Here's the deal, though, and I've kind of changed my tune on this since after the game on Saturday and after all of Saturday's happenings and the weekend happenings with Brian Kelly getting fired and another job opening up. I've kind of changed my tune on this a little bit. I think this is going to be a rough year to hire a head coach. Because here's the deal.
Looking.
Yeah, we're going to have to pay Brent Venables out. So we're going to have to buy him out of his contract.
Right.
Then we're going to have to turn around and spend big money on a coach right now because everybody's battling for whatever coach they want at this point. And so we're going to have to buy or maybe pay extra for a new head coach. Well, and then we're going to turn around and we're not going to retain all our we're not going to retain all our players, and we're not going to have all the recruits that we have coming in,
right?
Which next year and the year after next are really good. So then we're going to be asking for extra money to pick up players in the portal or to recruit these. I just don't think this is the year. So I don't think he can go 6-6 and keep his job. But before I said a minimum of 8-4 keeps his job, I'm kind of at the 7-5 spot where I think if he goes worse than 7-5 and he goes 6-6, even though we have the worst schedule in the country or the hardest schedule in the country, if he goes 6-6, I think he's probably still fired. If he goes 7-5, I think you got to try him one more year.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm frustrated as hell with the way everything has gone, but I don't feel like it's all his fault. And I feel like the defense has gotten better. Although once we start specifically talking about the game this past weekend, I have some things to talk about, but I don't feel like he's as much on the hot seat as maybe he would be in a normal year. If this was last year, and this was going to be his fourth season, then I think at that point he's probably, firmly sitting in the execution chair, the hot seat. And I just don't think with everything that's happened in the landscape of college football right now, you can really lend to that idea where if he goes 8-4 and wins twice as many games as he loses, you can fire him.
I was thinking about this just while you were talking. You make a great point of not firing the head coach, because there's a lot of teams without head coaches and everything that we'd have to do. You laid that out really well. Also, think about this too. Last year we replaced the offensive coordinator. I feel like overall, now I'm not talking about the offensive line, which we've discussed before in our group texts and what have you, talked a little bit about here on the show. But just overall in the scheme of most things that we do on the offense has gotten better than where we were last year. So maybe you take this year to grab some of the assistants that these head coaches were working with at some of these other schools. I mean, right now they're up in the air. You saw a lot of people exiting the room at LSU. Now, I don't know if that's been the case at, Penn State and Florida and some other places, but you could look at them going, hey, job security here, as opposed to where you are, a little more, at least in college football, and grab the best ones and replace some of those that we've been needing to replace on our side in some of those key positions, like offensive line. I know a lot of Beat and Bow lovers, but that's been a big discussion. It's been really a good 3. I mean, the first year kind of with Brent Venables gave him the benefit of the doubt, but the last 3 years, the offensive line has just been lackluster for Oklahoma. And I wonder if you don't start there and look at a couple other key, coaching positions inside of Oklahoma and replace those instead of replacing the head coach is what I mean.
100%. And here's something I'll say. In texting with Dalton today, Dalton and I had some texts back and forth about this exact thing. And I brought up, I just lost his name, Ben Arbuckle. Ben Arbuckle really only brought his quarterbacks coach.
Yeah.
That Mateer was comfortable with. He doesn't have his own offensive line coach. He doesn't have his own tight ends coach. He doesn't have his own running backs coach. And honestly, all 3 of those, if you're talking with me, all 3 of those can go.
Yeah.
Beadenbow has done a really good job recruiting. He's done a really good job in the past of putting guys in the league. We have so many offensive linemen in the league that were under Bill Beadenbow's tutelage.
Sure.
He's just not seeming to develop these guys that he's getting. And yes, we're getting a lot of 4- and 5-star recruits on offensive line, some that we're flipping from big name schools to come to Oklahoma, but he just hadn't done it for me. Number 2 is the running backs coach. I mean, did it really take this long in the year? And you watched the game, I know you did, but has it really taken this long in the year for them to realize that Xavier Robinson is as good as he is?
I know.
Like he was getting no carries earlier this season
because they were as bad as he is.
Yeah, they were trying to give Jaden Ott the carries because they paid him the money.
Right.
And I like Torrey Blaylock, but I think he's a year or 2 away from being what Xavier Robinson is. Xavier Robinson ran with extreme toughness. He's a bigger dude, but he's one of the fastest running backs on the team. He's really only got carries that meant anything in the last 2 weeks. And it's taken until, what is that, game 6? Or no, game 7 and game 8 for them to realize that he might be the back. He had 9 carries for 109 yards, averaged 12.1 yards a carry. I know that skewed a little bit because he had the 165-yard touchdown run, but he had 2 touchdowns in the game on Saturday. You cannot fault that kid for doing it. And third is tight ends. I mean, I've been complaining about Joe John Finley for at least 3 years, maybe even longer. I mean, he is awful. Why we're keeping Joe John Finley as our tight ends coach makes absolutely no sense. We have some tight ends that some of them can catch.
Yeah.
Jaron Cannett can catch, is a freak with the ball in his hands. For the first 6 weeks of the season, he led all tight ends in the country with receiving yards. I mean, he's just that guy. But he couldn't block your daughter. And it's just bad. Then we have Carson Kent, who can actually do a little bit of blocking, but he can't run a route and catch a ball to save his life. Like, we've got to be able to find a tight end. I mean, we put so many tight ends in the league in the past. I mean, most recently, Mark Andrews was an absolute stud and still is an absolute stud in the NFL. Like, everybody's wanting Mark Andrews as their tight end on their fantasy team for the NFL.
Yeah.
We've got to be able to do that. And so I think with the point that you made comes the next thing. I mean, I made the point, and then you piggybacked off of it saying we needed to maybe look at some of these assistant coaches. I think we need to allow Ben Arbuckle a year under coaches that he brings in.
Yeah.
He brought his quarterback in who is a good quarterback, but he's shown some weaknesses these past few weeks, and it's really been frustrating. It's just we've got to change something, and I think this really may be Venables' last chance. I thought it was last year, but the landscape of college football has changed drastically since last year. So I think this next year may really be Venables' last chance. Now, if he goes out and somehow pulls off 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, if somehow we go through these last 4 games and we win half of them, which, I mean, could honestly be done. We have Missouri still to go, who is without Bo Pribula for the rest of the year. So they have their starting quarterback. We have LSU, who Lord knows what the governor of Louisiana is going to do to this team, because they don't really have an AD or a president right now. The governor of Louisiana was really in on the firing of Brian Kelly.
That was wild.
Yeah, go read those stories, guys, if you haven't read the stories about how the governor of Louisiana got involved in this. But no telling what's going to happen to them. And we play them at home the last game of the season. We play Missouri at home the week before that. So those last 2 weeks of the season could be crucial. And listen, I don't expect us to go, honestly, to Tennessee or Alabama and come away with a win. Tennessee's a crazy place to go play. They're not playing as good as we thought they were in the beginning of the season. But, I mean, their quarterback will put up numbers. I mean, he's a good quarterback. Alabama is just Alabama, and they're going to have revenge on their minds from the butt kicking we laid down last year in Norman, when we just shut them down and somehow had like an amazing offensive performance for the whole game. So I don't expect to win either two of those. So I expect that we're 6-4 going into the Missouri game at the end of the season. If something happens and we win one of those or both of those, great. If not, and we're 6-4, I think BV needs to go in and win, for my liking, 2 of those games. But I think if he wins one of those games, I think he'll be safe.
It's crazy that we're nearing the end of the season. Here we are at the end of October, and looking for the last few games in college football regular season. I'll tell you something else too, something that I had been thinking about while watching the game. We've often talked about the offensive line, and backing up to that real quick is that with it being so hectic and it just feels like they're terrible at run blocking. You talk about tight ends not blocking as well, and that's where I think that probably John Mateer gets a little sketchy and misses reads, because he's looking for the one that he can get off real quick. But the quicker he can make some reads and find that open receiver, because, man, Satania was open a lot this past weekend. There was just your best receiver wide open. If you only have one to look at, start with him. I don't care what the rest of it, what the play actually calls for. Just start with him. If he's that open, maybe you hit 25% of those. And,
no doubt.
And you're in a much better position than where we were on Saturday.
I mean, Satania, 6 receptions for 131 yards and the long 76-yard touchdown, averaged 21.8 yards a catch last week. But, I mean, there were 2 times that I know of. One of them was on Satania's long touchdown. But Jaron Kanik was 25 yards behind the nearest defender on the other sideline. And I know Mateer had gotten flushed and is kind of rolling out to the right, making something happen. He's directing traffic with Satania, telling him where to go, and it worked out. But if he just opens his eyes a little bit, he could punt the ball, and Jaron Kanik could run underneath it and score a touchdown. He was 20 to 25 yards behind the nearest defender at that point, and it was a walk-in touchdown for Jaron Kanik, and he's a freak athlete. There were multiple times where I just felt like John Mateer rushed. And I said the same thing to somebody in my office today, where I think he's rushing because he knows he's going to have to get rid of the ball quick.
That's right. Yeah.
But, I mean, that 2-point conversion in the end zone, Blaylock was wide open a second earlier, and he was still wide open when Mateer threw the ball to him and just threw it in the dirt at his feet.
Yeah.
He has not been as crisp. I mean, he was only 17 for 31, which that is not a great percentage. I mean, barely, I guess that's barely over 50% on his passes. So he just wasn't good. Did throw for 223 yards, did not throw an interception, actually took care of the ball for the first time in a big game and didn't have a turnover. It's kind of annoyed me a little bit because in this game, after this game, and after the Texas game, him and Ben Arbuckle have both said, my eyes just weren't good. I didn't have good eyes. I wasn't seeing things. Well, figure it out. At some point, you're playing in the SEC. It's not going to get easier. Figure it out. So if you can't figure it out, then what are you on staff for? I like Ben Arbuckle. I'm not talking trash about him. But I mean, some of his play calling was very sketchy. We did find out today in the coaches show that the coaches show that was out on Sunday. I watched it today. We did find out that Mateer and Arbuckle actually audibled out of the play in the end zone that caused the safety into the play that caused the safety, which makes no sense. And I did see something where Mateer was like, I should never make that audible. I should not have audibled to an outside run because they have to get horizontal to be able to get vertical. Whatever it was,
it's not fast enough. Yeah.
It shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You can't make that audible and have your dude having to run 15 yards, 2 yards deep in the end zone to be able to get to the outside of a defensive lineman or a linebacker that is setting the edge out there for the defense. Yeah. I mean, just what I feel like, and I know we've only seen him play 8 games, but what I feel like was some very uncharacteristic mistakes by Mateer. But some of the play calling was atrocious in my mind. We have to scratch the quarterback run game. Let him improvise and take some runs, but we have to scratch the quarterback run game because they all know it's coming, and there's some kind of tell that they're giving. They all know it's coming. When it's 4th and 2 and we're literally running everybody to the short side of the field and having Mateer try to run behind them, they're just going to overload that. That's why it ended up a turnover on downs, and we lost 5 yards on that 4th down close to midfield where we gave the ball back to him after our defense had just made a great stop. We just got to be better on 3rd and 4th down on offense. And then we got to switch this to the defense a little bit because you've got to be better on 3rd and 4th down on defense as well. I know Lane Kiffin, in my opinion, is the best offensive play caller in college football.
Yeah,
he is.
Great,
he's ridiculous. I would love to have him as an OC because his offense is so hard to stop and is that very wide open, spread out offense that, oh, we need 2 yards. Oh, that's easy. That's fine. We can run this or this or this. Yeah. But we just got to make plays. We had several times where we had Trinidad Chambliss on 3rd and 4th down where we hit him behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage and couldn't bring him down.
Yeah.
That's fundamentals. You got to be able to tackle. You got to take the right angles. You got to have the right pad level for your tackle. That's just fundamentals. So we've got to be better on 3rd and 4th down. I didn't feel like we gave up the big busts on defense. They had a couple of long plays. They had a 43-yard pass and a 31-yard pass against us. But one, if not both of those, were caught within like 1 or 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. You've got to be able to swarm at that point.
Yeah.
Venables said we weren't getting our rush in our lanes, and so that was leaving Trinidad Chambliss open. And I'm just going to say this. I'm tired of trying to spy a running quarterback because then you have a wasted guy on a play.
Yeah.
If the quarterback gets rid of the ball quick, you have a wasted dude that is behind the play at that point. So just run a defense that's going to be sound and get after everybody. Get after the quarterback, get after the running backs, plug your holes up on offensive line. And I did feel like we didn't do as much rush 3, drop 8 this week. We still did some, and a couple of them were in very crucial times. But I did feel like we blitzed more, and we're going to have to do that against Tennessee. We're going to have to do that against Alabama, and we're going to have to do that in the last 2 games as well. But more these next 2 weeks, we're just going to have to really get after the quarterback and make them make the plays.
There's plenty for many to be kicking themselves over in this game before we get to Saturday and Tennessee rolling into Rocky Top. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a bit. First, I want to get your good, bad, and the ugly on a couple of other games. Okay. How can you not vote? Was it an ESPN poll that I saw today that had what is it? Is Texas 2 loss or still just 1? Are they just 1 loss?
They're 2 loss. They lost opening game to Ohio State, and then they had that horrible loss against Florida.
That's right. So they're a 2-loss team, and they had them ranked above Texas A&M. Lord have mercy, Texas A&M just looked absolutely fantastic against LSU. Part of the reason that Brian Kelly's no longer at LSU is the way the end of that game happened, or at least the second half of that game happened. You're good and bad and ugly in the Texas A&M LSU game, right?
Yeah, A&M's not getting, in my opinion, they're not getting the credit for what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the good was the second half defense for Texas A&M. They went into half somehow trailing 18-14. Which if you looked at the stats at halftime, you were like, how are they trailing 18-14? But they literally just turned up the volume at halftime. They only gave up 99 total yards in the second half. And that allowed Reed and the Concepcion and Craver, all those guys to just do their thing in the second half. And they ended up running away with this game. They scored touchdowns on 4 of their last 5 possessions in the second half. So, I mean, A&M is good, and I haven't given them credit because they always seem to have that one game where they just lay an egg and thought this might be it in a raucous atmosphere down in Baton Rouge.
I thought it was going to be that Arkansas game. It felt like just a branch, in their running path.
Little did we know that LSU was the bigger chicken and could lay the bigger egg.
That's right.
So my bad to me was LSU's offense. They just couldn't sustain a drive. They had 3 drives in the game that had more than 6 plays. That leads them to 2 for 13 on third down conversions in the game. That is just atrocious. I know A&M's defense has been really good, but they've given up some points and they've given up some yards. They've just figured out ways to win. And they gave up 25 points in this game, just didn't give up much in the second half. A&M came out and dominated at halftime. They made their changes and they just had their way. To me, the ugly in this one really doesn't have anything to do with the game. It's just the state of this LSU program. Yeah. With Brian Kelly not being able to coach them up in big games. A lot of the media going into the season had LSU winning the SEC championship, and several of them had them in the national championship game, if not winning the national championship. With Nussmeier and this, and I cannot think of the wide receiver's name, but with Nussmeier running this offense, everybody thought they were going to be playing for the SEC championship come December 5th. And, I mean, they're not even sniffing it at this point. And that obviously leads to Brian Kelly getting fired over the weekend. We talked about it a little earlier where, the governor got, somehow headed this up, or I don't know that he headed it up, but he definitely had a say in it. And Brian Kelly, they make his buyout. They go ahead and get him fired. There was apparently some kind of standoff on Sunday in the offices where he didn't want to leave and they were going to try to figure things out. And everybody's like, no, you're done. Like, you're done here. Which I'm sure Chief is having a cocktail over that tonight because he was at Notre Dame before he went to A&M and before he went to LSU, and he hated him at A&M or at Notre Dame. Jeez, I can't talk. But that's the ugly thing for me, just the overall state of the program.
I don't have a good, bad, and ugly, but I do have just a brag, and that is on Reed. That quarterback is 2 things. One, hardly ever do you see a quarterback get involved in a play, rightfully so most of the time, after he throws a pick. But but he threw a pick in the end zone, marched all the way down the field, threw it in the end zone, and he's the one that made the play and the tackle on the guy that he threw the pick to. And there's nothing else. Like, I threw a pick. I had to go tackle the guy. That's how it felt. And two, the way that these guys have the memory of a goldfish when they do something bad. You're talking about the defense letting some plays happen. They do, but they forget about them really quick and remember what they're supposed to do. Yeah. If not the next play, the play after that. They don't sit and wallow. And a lot of that is on Elko to me. He reminds me, I was watching him in this game, and I thought, you know what's interesting is he doesn't look like a coach. He looks like a dad that is just out there coaching his kid. And he's just like, I'm just going to teach these guys how to be men and let that turn into good football play. And that's what it seems has happened with those guys. And it's, listen, if I'm going to go for a Texas team, it's definitely going to be Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing on Marcel Reed. They actually had him on the Kirk Herbstreit and Joey Galloway weekly podcast today. That's a great podcast. And you should go back and watch the segment with Reed. It's like right at the beginning because he had meetings he had to get to. So you should go back and watch that segment. But just listening to the kid talk gives you something, and Joey Galloway brought it up after he answered a question, but it just gives you something more that you like about the kid. And
that's cool.
He apparently played high school football with one of Kirk's sons.
Oh, that's cool.
They're in Nashville.
Yeah.
And so just listening to him talk, I mean, he was like, they were like, you've waited all this time to be the starting quarterback, and you got in for part of the year last year. But you waited your time, and he's like, that's what I tell all these kids. Wait, if you're where you're at, wait your time and do what you want to do, how you want to do it. He said, we're in too much of a day and age basically right now where if I'm not starting by game 3, I'm going to the transfer portal.
Yeah. Chase the money too.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's getting paid handsomely to be A&M's starting quarterback, but just his overall attitude and some of the answers to his questions were like they were asking a 40-year-old guy, hey, how would you answer this if you knew it was the right thing to say? And just the way he answers those questions, he's a classic kid. He's a classic kid. I'm going to cheer for Texas A&M.
I like that. Texas versus Mississippi State. 2 weeks in a row, a game goes to overtime for Texas. They pull out another one on this one. Good, bad, and ugly for UB.
So unfortunately, the good is just Texas overall comeback. I mean, they're down by 17 points going into the fourth quarter of that game, and then they complete the comeback win in overtime. Arch Manning in the fourth quarter was 13 for 21 for 184 yards, and they only combined for 72 yards rushing the entire game. So it was all on the passing game.
Yeah.
And somehow they come out with the win when being up by 17 entering the fourth quarter. And that kind of leads me to my bad. Mississippi State offense in the second half was atrocious. Listen, you're going to give up points to a team like Texas. You may not give up a bunch, but when you're a team like Mississippi State and you're up by that much, you've got to be able to keep your defense off the field a little bit in the second half and in the waning quarters of that game. They only gained 164 of their 445 total yards in the second half. Just couldn't sustain a drive. They had drives of 4, 5, and 8 plays in the third quarter, but then couldn't stay on the field at all in the fourth quarter. They went 3 and out 3 times in the fourth quarter, had one 7-play drive, but it only went for 25 yards. I mean, they've got to be able to somehow sustain somewhat of an offensive drive and run some time off the clock, because that would have made a big difference.
Yeah.
And then the ugly for me was just Mississippi State's play in overtime. It was just bad. You get to overtime, you'd like to think, hey, we're in this home raucous atmosphere. We should have the advantage going into overtime. We can get this done. No. On the first play of overtime, Arch Manning scrambles for 13 yards and gets rocked, and then his head bounces off the turf. Yeah. He's actually still in concussion protocol. They came out and said today. Wow. So then you've knocked Texas starting quarterback out of the game, which if you've listened to me all season long, he shouldn't be the starter, I don't feel like. But then you knock him out, and then you just puke down your shirt I mean, it was horrible. Texas offense was just rolling at that point. And they ended up getting in the end zone with a 10-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Caldwell to Emmett Mosley. But then when Mississippi State gets the ball on offense, they go incompletion. So now it's 3rd and 10. They go false start. So now it's 3rd and 20 from the 35-yard line. And Blake Shapen has to run for his life in the backfield trying to throw a 20-yard pass, ends up getting sacked and fumbled to end the game in overtime. Yeah. Just a horrible end to that game that, I mean, honestly, at the end of the third quarter, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Texas is going to win this game.
Yeah.
Another thing that I didn't even put down was why in the second half or in the fourth quarter are you punting to Niblett, the punt returner for Texas? This is 3 out of the last 4 games that he's had a punt return for a touchdown.
That's wild.
You don't kick to him. Kick away from him. Kick it out of bounds. Make him go 60 yards. I know you're kicking it, and he calls a fair catch. You can make him go 75 or 80 yards, but kick it out of bounds and make him go 60. Make Arch Manning put the team on his back and drive down the field in a pressure situation, and I bet this game doesn't even go to overtime.
Yeah, Arch screwed me in my prize picks. I put him as under 215 for that game because I've seen him throw passes this season. I thought that was a pretty safe bet. No, not so much. Lost it. One more here. Vandy and Missouri. Wow. Vandy rolls into Texas this weekend, which we'll get into a little sneak peek of picks coming up in just a little bit. But how about taking out Missouri at their home field with Kenny Chesney and Dirks Bentley and Nate Bargatze all there watching and hanging out?
Yeah. I mean, man, I'm not going to lie. I don't really have a good, bad, and ugly for this game because it was just a hell of a game. So I'm just going to kind of wax poetic about this game for a minute. What a defensive battle in the first half. Neither offense could put up anything in the first half, led to a 3-3 halftime score. Missouri did put a drive together towards the end of the first half, but ends up missing the field goal. But then, honestly, the second half, Diego Pavia just made enough plays. Both teams, they end up being tied at 10 after the third quarter. But, I mean, Diego Pavia just made the plays and came up with the win. It's just a really good win at this point in Nash Vegas against 2 teams that are just doing this. Yeah. It didn't hurt that Bo Pribula went down, starting quarterback for Missouri. Yep. Ends up going down in this game, so they have their backup freshman quarterback in the game. But honestly, I was watching this game going, man, it's tied up to start the fourth quarter. You just felt like Vandy was going to make a play. Diego Pavia was going to make a play, and they were going to win this game. And then once he punched it in with 1:52 seconds left in the fourth quarter with the little 1-yard touchdown, I had all the confidence they were going to get a stop. Well, then Missouri decides to put a 73-yard drive together and ends it with a Hail Mary at the end of the game. And it gets caught, but right outside the end zone, literally like the half-yard line, and Vanderbilt ends up taking the game. I mean, you look at the stats and you're like, man, I don't think either offense wanted to win this game because none of the stats were like, oh, man, what a good – I will say this. Vanderbilt seems to just have something going for him right now, and they're going to have some of the luck, it feels like. They do have a game coming up this week, which I'm a little excited about. But this is the first time Vanderbilt has won 7 games before November since 1915.
Crazy.
Let that sink in for a second. Man. We're talking 110 years since they've won 7 games before November. And that squad had 4 9-win seasons. Like, it's crazy for me.
15. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just look at Vanderbilt. And I thought this was funny during game day because we know last year when Vandy played Alabama, Nick Saban was like, nobody worries about Vanderbilt. You can't lose at Vanderbilt. And then Vanderbilt ends up beating them. Well, then this year, they're all booing him to start. And every time he talks, they boo him. And then he turns around and he's like, guys, I've bought in. I'm jumping on the Vandy bandwagon. And the whole place goes crazy. But, I mean, they're not a place you can just roll over anymore.
No,
I mean, Clark Lea has that running right now. Now, I'm going to be really surprised if Clark Lee is still their head coach next year at this time.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's –
man.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many openings. Right. I'm pretty sure he's going to get one of these jobs. Somebody was talking today. It may have been in the Herb Street and Joey Galloway podcast where they started counting down jobs, and there may be 20 to 25 open head coaching positions in Power 4 schools.
It's wild.
By the end of the season.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to think about that. That's just crazy to me.
Saturday, prime time, Oklahoma headed into a blacked out Rocky Top, taking on Tennessee, 6:30 on ABC, prime time game. Looking forward to this game, but we also, last season we invited Josh Heupel home, and he took care of business. Maybe we can return the favor this year.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think they're as good this year as they were last year. I mean, they're still 6-2, 3-2 in the SEC. So they're still a good football team, but I don't think they're as good this year as they were last year. I would like to feel like we're a little bit better this year than we were last year overall. We've got to get some things straightened out on offense, but we got to be able to stop Joey Aguilar and Bishop, the running back, on 3rd and 4th and short. I mean, we've got to figure out a way to make them have to just make incredible plays to be able to get a first down. Our defense was on the field way too much last week, and I think Ole Miss, I think it came down to they ended up running 23 more plays than us because they were able to get off the field some on 3rd and 4th down, and we just weren't for defense. We've got to be able to figure out a way to get the Tennessee offense off the field. I feel like we also have to change up some of our play calling a little bit.
Yeah,
I think you need to get Xavier Robinson a lot of touches going into this one. I feel like he probably needs to be the feature back with a little sprinkling in of Torrey Blaylock. But I'm tired of seeing these other backs get carries. Taylor Tatum doesn't need to carry the ball. Jaden Ott doesn't need to carry the ball. It needs to be Blaylock or X-Man. Xavier Robinson needs to carry the bulk of the snaps coming in this week to this game.
It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I know that it is a tough place to play, knowing that Tennessee is not as good as they were last year, and maybe we're a little bit better than we were. I don't know. We'll see how this game. And it's interesting that right now the betting line has only given the favor to Tennessee by 1.5. Usually get, what did we say? 2.5 is like what you get for just having home field advantage.
2.5 or 3 points is typically what the home field advantage leads.
We do have some good games. No Dalton not here this week, but he did give me his picks. I'll start by last week's. You were obviously in the lead, and you stay in the lead and advance that a little bit more with +7. Dalton only +4 after last weekend, putting you at 60.
Yeah, boy.
Him at 50. I'll give you the first pick on this first game, and that is Vandy versus Texas. Who are you thinking?
I'm taking Vandy. Texas has squeaked by 2 weeks in a row. I know it is at DKR Stadium in Austin, but Texas has squeaked by 2 weeks in a row. I feel like they had a very good chance of losing both of those games. They're going to have to get some stuff figured out. And right now, I feel like, Pavia Pandemonium is going crazy right now. So I'm going to go with Vandy in this game.
It looks like Dalton's pick was for Vandy as well. Next game, Georgia versus Florida. Dalton's pick is Georgia. Who are you picking here?
Yeah, it's got to be Georgia. I mean,
Florida. Right?
Florida's a bad football team. Yeah. They somehow stepped up to beat Texas, but Florida's a bad football team, and Georgia's going to roll all over them.
Texas Tech versus Kansas State.
Yeah, Kansas State is maybe the worst team in the Big 12. But Texas Tech is going to score 40, 50 points on them easily. Texas Tech wins that one.
That's Dalton's pick too, is Texas Tech.
Which that's funny because is that game at Kansas State? It is, right?
Yes, yeah, it's at Kansas State.
Dalton will probably be working that game, which is true.
Next up is South Carolina versus Ole Miss. Dalton's pick is Ole Miss. Who you got?
Yeah, I got to go with Ole Miss. I mean, South Carolina, we went to their stadium and beat them and beat them handily. I know they did play a halfway decent game against Alabama last week. No, Ole Miss is going to go in there and roll. They're not going to be able to stop Ole Miss's offense.
Your favorite team out west, USC versus Nebraska. Who you got here?
Man, as much as I don't like USC, they've been playing pretty good lately. But I'm going to go with Nebraska at home. I'm going to go with Nebraska at home. Mick, that one's for you. That's Dalton's wife.
One of them did it. One of them did it for her. It just wasn't her husband.
Yeah,
he picks USC. So
they're all Nebraska fans. I'm going to go with Nebraska in this one. For some reason, I'm feeling that.
All right, next game up, Cincinnati versus Utah. This is where game day is going to be this Saturday. Dalton's pick is Cincy. How are you thinking here?
Man, I think so too. Brendan Sorsby for Cincinnati has been playing so good this year, throwing for over 1,800 yards, has 20 touchdowns, 1 interception. I just feel like this may be Cincy's year to get to the Big 12 championship, probably going to play Texas Tech. I think Cincinnati comes away with this one.
All right, last one. It is the primetime game of the week, 6:30 on ABC Saturday night. Oklahoma heads to Rocky Top, Knoxville, Tennessee. Who you picking? Sooners or Volunteers?
Man, I don't know. I was honestly hoping you wouldn't pick this one.
Primetime game, you have to, right?
I know. I'm going to say OU figures out a way to actually move the ball and convert some third downs this week.
It's hard.
And they've got to be better, right? They've got to be better. John Mateer needs to step up and have a John Mateer game that we all feel like he can have. I'm going to pick Oklahoma to come out on top in that one.
Dalton's pick is Oklahoma too. Time for the locks. I'm going to let you pick first on locks. I know his, and I'll share that after you do.
All right. My lock of the week, we've talked about this game a couple of times. My lock of the week is in the SEC, and I'm going to lock Vandy plus 1.5 at Texas. I think Vandy goes in there and wins that game straight up. So if that's the case, I'll get double points. I know Texas's defense is good, but I don't feel like their offense is really going to do a whole lot, especially if Arch Manning is healthy and comes back. I think they have a better chance winning that one with the backup quarterback. I'm going Vandy. I'm going Vandy plus the 1.5. Tell me that's what Dalton did too, isn't it?
Underdog, yes, you got it as well. So that'd be 4 points for each of you if you get this one right.
Yeah. I knew that's when I started scrolling through these games. I knew that's the one he was going to pick.
Well, the difference maker for this week is going to be the Nebraska USC game. So. Nebraska
USC. Right. So I I get to cheer for Nebraska while he has to cheer for USC.
There you go. And take
that's not going to go over well in his house.
Not at all. You sleep on the couch.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't be the first time. Definitely wouldn't be the first time for me, but no. My wife's only loyalty is my loyalty too. So we're good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's fun. Well, Dalton will be back with us next week, fingers crossed, and hopefully his team's playing better than they did today. So
he will. I think they actually. I watched a lot of it. Yeah. I think they actually played pretty good. I think they were just overmatched.
Yeah, same thing.
They gave up a lot of offensive rebounds to the other team. I felt like
that's what I noticed. The same thing. Yeah.
I recall 2 or 3 possessions where they had multiple offensive rebounds and finally scored off of it. So
I've been watching more basketball than normal. I'm getting ready to start calling high school basketball. Yeah. And so I've got to get familiar with all my terms again. So
you got this.
So, yeah. Looking forward
to it. You got this. Well, hey, it's been fun. Hopefully next week or this weekend is a lot more fun than last weekend was.
Hope so.
And hang on, I forgot to tell you guys. I didn't even tell you in the group chat. For some reason on Saturday morning, I got up and didn't take my blood pressure medicine. So then by the time the game got into the third quarter and fourth quarter, I was like, I didn't take my blood pressure medicine. I was steaming, of course. I mean, you know how watching a game with me goes. My head was red and literally sweating from yelling at the TV. But I'm going to remember to take my blood pressure medicine this week.
Yeah, that'll help.
And hopefully this weekend will be better. You know what they say, though, right?
The weekend is good.
But the midweek, it's always better.
And boom goes the dynamite.